Hi, my name's John.
And I'm Allie.
And when we finished Season 2 of Fruits Basket,
we thought it would be a fun idea to look back at Season 1
and talk about all the cool details that we may have missed from an anime only
and a manga reader's perspective.
So join us today as we talk about Season 1, Episode 1, See You After School. Welcome back to another episode of our Fruits Basket podcast. So if you like this kind of content, you want to see more of it coming from the channel, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and why not even ringing that notification bell so you never miss another upload, because we'll be posting these every single Friday, looking at all the episodes from Season 1. But with all of that out of the way, where are we starting?
Alrighty, first of all, I have to point out how weird it was to rewatch this episode, especially because we watched it dubbed. And we just haven't watched Season 1 in so long, and it feels so weird to go back to the beginning. It was startling.
It was so absolutely mind-boggling. Like, everything about it. They touch on so many things where it's like, oh my god, like, they were touching on that, like, here? I didn't remember this episode being so sad.
Right? But then when we watched it originally, like, on the original launch date, I was crying. And you were kind of like, just a shoujo.
Yeah, I was like, what's so sad about it? But, like, I get it now. Like, I'm with you.
Did you tear up?
No.
That's okay. You'll cry after we watch Season 3 and rewatch Season 1.
Yeah, probably.
Probably. But, okay. So, I have to give a little disclaimer. If you are coming back to these podcasts, you are a returning listener, you're going to notice that the format for these Season 1 podcasts are going to be different from the Season 2 ones. So in Season 2, we covered the episode scene by scene, but for Season 1, we're only going to be looking at key moments to point out things like characterization, psychology, symbolism, foreshadowing, and just anything that we really want to talk about.
Yeah.
So,
if you have not watched Season 2 yet, this is not the podcast for you. Go away, watch Season 1 and 2, and then come back and listen, because this is going to be like a retrospective, looking back on Season 1 after watching Season 2.
Yes, because we're getting ready for good old Season 3. So this episode, starts out swinging.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get God and all the animals.
They give us so much in this first scene. I completely forgot about how they show you the bonds going up to the ceiling.
Yeah.
Like, they viscerally tell you and show you so much about this.
They don't hold anything back. They're like, foreshadowing? Oh, would you like to meet her? This is Fruits Basket.
Even God kind of in that appearing to be portrayed as a woman. Or it appears to be, or a long-haired man, but it kind of looks like a woman, which is like, oh my god, how did I not put together that Akito was a woman?
Well, you did. I just told you were wrong.
Well, true. It's true.
Yeah. But God is also holding the cat. Do you have any idea why?
So, I feel like there was a falling out between, we know that there was a falling out between the cat and God because the cat didn't show up to the banquet, right?
Okay.
So I almost wonder if the cat and God, since we're following the Chinese zodiac, right? Mm-hmm. What if it's kind of like a yin and yang kind of thing? Like they're two sides of a coin?
Yuki did mention that.
Yeah, and that's why there's so much like animosity there. Because maybe they almost looked at each other as almost not equals, but companions.
Okay.
And now just the spirits within them just harbor that incredible amount of resentment, especially from Akito's standpoint looking at Kyo.
Because the cat didn't show up to the banquet?
Yeah, and those spirits, the spirits hold grudges.
Okay, and then the spirits live in all of the characters that are in the... Okay.
Yeah.
I like your theory. So after that scene, we get Tohru, our girl, her introduction, which gets me emotional every single time, and I know that the music had you going. This
is one of the best introductions, especially looking back, of any anime character ever, because I don't know, something about this music like this track in particular really hits such a happy tone of being this happy-go-lucky shoujo that it really is throughout the entirety. Obviously, it has those dark undertones. It really hits on what the essence of this season is.
I have to say that hearing this music and seeing Tohru act the way that she does in the first episode, it really does give off those happy-go-lucky shoujo vibes. And I don't know, I'm so used to later parts of Fruits Basket. When I reread, I usually start after the beach arc, just because that's my favorite part of the story. I don't look at the beginning of the series very often. So hearing this music and seeing Tohru's introduction, it threw me off because it's a happy-go-lucky shoujo feeling. And that is not what I'm used to with Fruits Basket. That's not what I associate it with.
But, like, this is still kind of what I associate it with, is, like, this song. Like, this song and the series are almost synonymous for me. And it's just crazy to think about. This is the first song that they show. And they directly correlate with Tohru. And I feel like it's almost like her theme.
But we get to see a little bit about Tohru and her tent and all of that. All of that. We'll get into that a little bit later. Next, my next little note is about Tohru pointing out that there was no cat in Shigure's Zodiac set.
This is such a cool moment to think back on because of that scene where she gets her own Zodiac set. That was when they're on the class trip, right?
Yep.
And she makes her own cat to add it.
Yeah, she makes her own little paper mache cat. And
this series has so much good understated payoff. Even just like that scene there.
Yeah, there are so many little details that will end up becoming bigger later, and that if you remember it, just from being such a small moment in an earlier episode, it'll just break you down. So
yeah, like Kyoko, her conversation, how she tells Tohru the Zodiac story. Watching this back, it kind of made me wonder. So she has a relationship with Kyo, right?
Yes.
She meets him when he's kind of round about the age Tohru is when she's telling Tohru the story, right?
It looks that way.
I have to wonder if Kyoko knew about Kyo's situation. I don't know if she knew that he was a Zodiac. That feels like kind of a stretch. But like she might have. And if she did, which I'm not saying she does, I'm not really bought into that. But if she did, that would be so cool that her daughter is taking an interest in the same Zodiac or non-Zodiac member that she did.
But it is fun to hear Kyoko's story of the Zodiac and how Shigure immediately picks up on what Tohru's talking about, compares it to his little set. Now we know that Tohru will end up really getting to enjoy the cat's company, which Shigure does mention. I wonder what Kyo would say if he knew that kind of thing, or what he would say, but he meant Kyo.
Because no one's ever liked the cat. Everyone hates the cat. His whole life. And now they're married.
Stop!
Okay, that's my headcanon, if you're new.
Oh my God.
They're already married. They have 5 children. They live on Cat Island.
Okay,
sorry.
Anyways.
The way this show introduces characters, though, is perfection. Like, not just Tohru, but like all of them.
Tell me about it.
Let's just start with Hanajima and Uotani.
Okay.
Hanajima is kind of terrifying.
Yeah, I forgot how intense her introduction is with the intense static with her waves and that effect. And also her with the knife and the purple aura, and I forgot how intense it was.
Uotani, like, comes off as tough, but, like, not really.
Yeah, because she starts crying over Tohru cooking and just all of that stuff.
And even, like, smaller characters, like the Prince Yuki fan club, like, they world build so well and so seamlessly. Like, you get the gist of the school environment. You get the gist of the Soma environment, you know?
Mm-hmm. That sounds like some good writing to me.
Nah.
No.
It's fine.
No credit.
No, nah. It's whatever. But we need we need to talk about Yuki in this episode.
Please.
Who would I be if I did not talk about my boy in this episode? You had some feelings about him in this episode.
Yeah, the whole episode I kept going, oh my gosh, why is he so creepy?
He's so creepy.
He is. He comes
He's
off
such a
so
Steve.
creepy in the beginning. I forgot how, like, weird he was.
Such a weirdo.
Because, like, now that we know the events of season 2, we know that he does not know how to communicate with people. And that is very apparent in this episode.
He's so strange. And I love it so much because now that we see where he ends at the end of season 2, it's like, that's a different person.
Yeah. And just to clarify, just so you don't think it's like, oh, it was the beginning of the story and the author didn't know where she was going to take Yuki or anything like that. Not that I thought that.
It feels so organic.
Well, yeah, but she wrote the end before she wrote the beginning. So she knew who he was going to become personality-wise at the end of the story before she even wrote the beginning. Yeah, she wrote, like, his last scene before she wrote his first scene. So she already knew. That's
mind-boggling how well that's done.
Right?
Was the scene where he summons all the rats, was that in the manga?
It was. That was in the manga.
Why do we not see more of that? Okay, can we talk about how that's the reason I like him so much?
Are you serious?
Is when his eyes glowed purple and he summoned that horde of rats to dig out the tent. Yes, that's what made me be like, yo, I love Yuki. And you and your roommate were like kind of talking up Kyo a lot. And I was like, yo, what about this boy though?
I can't believe that's why you like him. I thought it was just because he was like charming.
Well, I mean but is he charming?
I mean, if you're a new viewer watching season 1, episode 1 for the first time, you're like, who's this mysterious guy? He's kind of suave.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. That's true.
Because the first time you watched it, you thought he was a cool guy. And I'm like,
no, yeah, I
so
did think
awkward.
He was a cool dude. No, he's a goof. But yeah, so that, and then Kyo's introduction in this episode is just very Kyo.
It's perfection. And we have talked about the timeline before, and you have a theory about the timeline. What do you think Kyo was doing before this introduction?
He was with Akito, right? Like, that was when they had the discussion that he has to beat Yuki.
I won't say if you're right or not, but I will say he was wearing the same clothes.
Yeah, like he was wearing the same clothes. Why else would he? We don't see him so belligerently break a roof like that. Like, he breaks a lot of stuff in this first season, but like that was the most excessive. So the fact that he was so emotionally charged after meeting with Akito, it would make sense. Like, he's really motivated to beat up Yuki before Tohru kind of collapses on him and turns him into a soft little ginger kitty.
An orange boy.
Little orange fluff.
He was a boy.
He was a boy. Now he's a cat.
But yeah, maybe he just had a talk with a certain god about how he wanted to beat Yuki, and now he's gonna go fight Yuki. But Tohru kind of messed that up.
Still so ambiguous. So ambiguous what beat Yuki means.
It means beat him in a food fight.
In a food fight?
It's Food Wars. Cooking competition.
Wrong anime. Wrong anime.
Oh, right, sorry.
Yeah.
You mean we're not talking about how to bake chicken and... Oh, okay, sorry.
No, there aren't any chickens in this anime.
No, Kureno doesn't transform. Anyways.
I'm not bitter.
Shut up. No. Okay. Then the last character is Shigure, who you haven't mentioned yet. How do you feel about that character introduction?
He's hilarious. I love Shigure in this first episode. Because, like, he just seems kindly and nice and funny, and you don't see how sketchy he is. You don't even really get a glimpse at it. He seems just like a very caring dude.
Yeah, the way that he talks to Tohru when she's crying about her mom and everything.
Which, I should, like, asterisk, I do think he's a caring dude. Like, genuinely, I do.
Even if he's a little sketch sometimes.
he's a little sketch sometimes, but I love his character. And I think he is genuinely at heart a good dude who's just thirsting over a specific god.
After we talked about all the character introductions, let's dive into the introduction of the curse. It gets foreshadowed quite a number of times. Yuki specifically says something really interesting. He is talking about the cat and everything. And he says, what's so great about joining the Zodiac? It's better to be alone. And he just continues to talk about how he tried to distance himself from the Soma clan and how if he really meant it, he would have gone and lived in a tent. And you just get all these little nuggets about how Yuki doesn't want to be a part of it.
And it kind of harkens forward to the fact that Yuki probably thinks it's better to be Kyo. Kyo thinks it's better to be Yuki.
Yeah.
The fact that they hint at so much stuff so early. Nuts.
All the foreshadowing.
Because, like, stupid cat, he thinks the cat's stupid because he thinks that he's got it going on. Like, he's got the good end of the deal.
Yeah, Yuki has been living with Shigure for a very short period of time. Like, he only was just allowed to go to a different high school. This is his first year. They're only a couple months in.
And he already has his own fan club.
Oh, yeah.
But I think the next big kind of plot point that happens, like, throughout the course of this episode is everything to do with Kyoko. Yeah. And all the mentions of her. Definitely.
There are so many little nuggets where you get to figure out just how grief-stricken that Tohru is, because she keeps mentioning things about her mom. And at first, when you watch it the first time, it's like, oh, she's just narrating to her mom. And that's what this is. It's the whole anime is gonna be her narrating what is happening to her mother. And that is so sweet. Oh, she misses her mom. And then once you get to season 2, you realize this is much darker. She's not okay.
Yeah.
We're actually going to dive into psychology here and talk about why she's not okay.
There are different kinds of styles of grief, right? So there is intuitive grief, which is, to be super vague and undetailed about it, because I could talk forever about it. That essentially means that you grieve much more emotionally. And then there's instrumental grief, which is much more, you cope with your grief by taking your mind off things, like doing projects hands-on, kind of applying yourself so that you can cope with it in a much more concrete way. Well, we all have both sets of grief within us. Most of us are blended grievers, a little bit of intuitive, a little bit of instrumental. Tohru is so instrumental in how she copes with her grief. She throws herself into her work. Like, she works herself literally sick in this episode just so that she can fulfill what her mom wants for her. It's not even her goal, which is crazy to think about, because in this episode it highlights, and with that grief style in mind, it highlights why her thinking about her future in season 2 is so terrifying, because her goal for herself is just what her mother wanted. Once that's up, what does she have left, you know?
Yeah, and especially the way that you actually hear the flashback of her mom saying it. She says it as such a passing comment. It's not even like an extreme wish for her daughter that she get through high school and everything is relying on this one thing. She says it so casually, like, you know, I dropped out of school in middle school, so I never really got to do that high school girl thing. You should get through high school. It's not even a big deal. And Tohru takes it so seriously because her mom said it.
Yeah. And so the fact that she throws herself into work and, like, relentlessly, I think all of this being a coping mechanism that becomes very unhealthy, which instrumental grief is not inherently unhealthy. It works well for a lot of people. It helps a lot of people get through, but everything can be unhealthy in excess. And so her working herself to the bone so she doesn't have to think about her mother or, like, cope with the fact that her mother is gone really adversely affects her, I think. Well, we can see it does, because she doesn't cope with the emotions or the feelings of loss that she has surrounding the death of her mother, which is why when her tent gets buried and just the picture of her mother gets buried, like, she has a little bit of an emotional breakdown trying to dig it out, like, frantically.
Yeah, and the words that she uses there, really personifying the photo of her mother and saying she can't breathe and she's trapped. That's not healthy.
It shows just how visceral, like, her mother's death kind of was. Not just, like, I don't think Tohru saw the body, but them showing the blood dripping into the sewer grate. Like, I think that almost represents just how viscerally Tohru, like, understands it to be. And almost that blood dripping into the sewer grate is just what Tohru carries every day, you know? And that's why they showed it so vividly in this episode.
Yeah. Just to remind you, she does see her mom in the hospital and is there for, like, her last moments if she didn't already pass away.
Yeah. But she doesn't see the, like the scene of the accident, right?
No, she was in school when the accident happened.
But, I don't know, it makes me feel bad for the girl.
And it's so sad watching it now, because when it's your introduction to her, you're like, oh, that's really sad that her mom died. This will be a plot point later, and that's all you think of. But when you actually know and see season 2, it just hits so much harder, and I cried.
Yeah. Because you don't realize just how human these characters are about to become to you.
Yeah.
With context, this is such a good opening. When you watch it for the first time with no context, it's just like, oh, that was good. Like, I enjoyed that. But now it's just, like, so good. If you haven't watched it in a while, go watch it, because you will get slapped in the face with the feels.
Yeah, rewatch season 1 with us.
Yes, please.
We gotta get through this hiatus somehow.
Yeah, and we'll put out videos every week. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
I only have one little theory question.
Yes.
Okay. So, in this episode, first time we see Tohru's grandpa call her Kyoko. And this continues all the way throughout season 2. Even though everyone keeps correcting him and saying, it's Tohru, grandpa. So, do you think that there's a deeper meaning why he keeps calling her Kyoko? Do you think it's just because he's old and forgetful? Because he's really stubborn about it. So, is it just like, uh-oh, he's getting senile, or what?
I don't think that's it. He seems pretty with it a lot of the time. He says strange things, like when he's delirious when his back hurts. Yeah. Like when he wants to see Kyoko and Tohru's dad, mysterious anime man. But I think he calls her Kyoko because in his mind, Kyoko lives on in Tohru. And that's kind of a way to keep Kyoko alive, potentially. I can't think of any other reason why he would call her Kyoko. Because it can't be good for Tohru's psyche.
Yeah, like, let me just torture this girl by bringing up her dead mother all the time.
So I wonder if it's almost like a way for him to cope with it. Because I don't think it's just like, oh, senile, because like nothing in Fruits Basket's that straightforward. And
he did have a good attachment with Kyoko. He mentioned that he had a weird relationship with his son, but then Kyoko helped them get back together. So he probably does owe his relationship with his son to her. Yeah. And so I feel like calling Tohru Kyoko is a way for him to remain close with both Kyoko and his son, because Tohru is the living remnant of both of them. Yeah. Kyoko's red, her dad's white, Tohru's pink. Aww. To be fair, that's in the swimsuit episode. I didn't just make that up. Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. I completely forgot that, but that's really cute. I know, it makes me cry. We're gonna cry a lot during season 1. I can feel it already. Yeah. But alright, that was my only little theory question for you. So I guess next week we're going to be covering episode 2 of season 1. So if you like this kind of content, you want to keep watching season 1 with us, then make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and why not even ring that notification bell so you never miss another upload. If you haven't already joined our community Discord, the link for that will be in the description down below. So make sure to share this video wherever you like sharing things. And as always, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, a fantastic rest of your week, and why not even a fantastic rest of your month. And we will see you in the next video. Later. See ya.